Sean McVay says the Rams aren't talking about making a trade for this specific position of need. Why that's a mistake, that's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Ramley, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Rams, your daily podcast covering your Los Angeles Rams. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're also available over on YouTube, so if you haven't yet, do us a huge favor. Join the party. Try to get to 20,000 subscribers, so hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. And if you want to support every show, hit that like button for your Los Angeles Rams. Podcast listeners, write us a review or read on the show. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. I've covered LA sports for over a decade, 24/7 sports, Bleach Report, SI, Dodgers Nation. As always, I'm joined by the Rams pre, half, and post-game show host for the Rams flagship radio station, ESPN 710 LA. He's in his 11th season covering your Los Angeles Rams, the People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers. You can follow him on X at Travis Rogers. And on today's episode, Sean McVay says the Rams have not talked about adding a player in a position of need. Is that a concern? Also, how bad are the Ravens really? And OBJ, old Rams legend OBJ, suspended for PEDs. Will he play this season? That's coming up. But first, today's episode of Locked On Rams brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. All right, Travis, so we know the glaring need on defense. If you're going to pick one, it's the play in the secondary, the cornerbacks. And with Ahkello Witherspoon out, this secondary really has shown that that is a weakness. Now, do you really need all-pro corners in this scheme? That's a debate that we could continue to have. But if there was one position on defense that you would say, okay, we're going to look externally for, it would be that cornerback spot. And it sounds like right now it's not something they're very interested in.
Yeah, I'm of two minds with this, Doug. I think that, the Rams, oddly enough, I think kind of tell the truth when it comes to whether or not they're looking to make a deal. Like when they say something like, we're always keeping our options open, we're listening, that means that they're probably actively in the trade market and considering doing something. When they say, I don't think so, it usually means, I don't think so. So I don't know what to think here because they clearly need help at that position. And one of the things that the Rams have done and been really good at it, and I think, to their great advantage, they've been aggressive when aggressiveness is called for. And, you go back to the Jalen Ramsey deal, you go back to the Matthew Stafford deal, you go back to, lesser deals like Dante Fowler or whoever these guys may have been. Like when they think it's time to make a deal to go get somebody, Von Miller is another one, OBJ, who I know we're going to talk about. When they see something, they'll go do it. And I just don't believe Sean McVay when he tells me that the back is good enough. It's just not. They're not covering anybody. I mean, you saw it against the 49ers that, Kendrick Bourne is killing them, and well, what about the pass rush? Well, there is no pass rush when the ball's out of your hand in a third of a second. There's nothing anybody can do in that situation. So they got to cover better if they're going to let that pass rush get home a little bit. And right now they can't cover.
That's absolutely true. And what McVay said specifically was, quote, that we were just asked about the cornerback spot and if they're considering adding externally, maybe considering a trade, that kind of stuff. McVay said, quote, that hasn't been something that we've talked about. We're always looking at ways to be able to upgrade the roster. I think those guys did a good job and will continue to lean into them. So as you said, kind of leaves it open, kind of doesn't really say anything specific. I don't want to read too much into it. So the point of this is to kind of, let's hear from him, but also let's think about the reality here. And the reality here is if this secondary, if these cornerbacks continue to struggle like they are, they're going to have no choice then to really look at some other options, whether that's scheme, whether that's making adjustments with Chris Shula, and just looking at that 49ers game. We talked about on the show a lot. Mac Jones looked like Tom Brady. It looked like Mac Jones had really just turned a corner as a cornerback, and they did against this Rams team, throwing for 342 yards. But even before that, you start to see the effects of what this team looks like without Ahkello Witherspoon. And yes, it's just the first 2 weeks, and it's against the Texans and the Titans. But since Ahkello Witherspoon has gone out, they're giving up at least 225 passing yards in each of those past 3 games. The first 2, they're giving up an average of 147 in their first 2 games. They've allowed 6 passing touchdowns since Ahkello Witherspoon's been out. Before that, they had given up just 1. So the numbers are there that this team misses Ahkello Witherspoon. But by the way, Ahkello Witherspoon's got to be like the most paid, appreciated cornerback, I guess, in the NFL, to think that he's the glue of this team. But this is kind of where I'm at, though. The guys that are playing Travis, the Darius Williams, the Kobe Durants, the Emmanuel Forbes, all these guys that are actually playing, yes, Josh Wallace got a couple snaps. These are the guys that they thought were going to be playing, right? So it's not like they're missing more guys and they're at the bottom of the barrel from their depth. So these are the guys they expected to play. And I'll never forget Sean McVay saying that he thinks they have 4 starting cornerbacks. So that's kind of where they're at.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think, when they went to Philadelphia a few weeks ago and all of a sudden A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith started to kill them, you're like, all right, they got to find somebody that can deal with those high-level wide receivers, right? Those A wide receivers, those guys that are going to be a difficult matchup under the very best of circumstances. Okay, fine. I'll listen to that because I don't think there's a lot of guys that can cover A.J. Brown. I don't think there's a lot of guys that are going to cover Devontae Smith. So fine. That's not what's happened since then. They've been getting killed by guys that are not all pros. They've been getting eaten alive by the Kendrick Bournes of the world. Mitchell, had he not dropped the ball into the back of the end zone, would have had a long touchdown run, catch and run on that one play. They're getting beat up by guys that are not special players. They're just, run-of-the-mill NFL players. And if you can't cover those guys, you're not going to be playing a bunch of those sorts of guys in the playoffs. You're going to be playing number ones. You're going to be playing all pros, Pro Bowlers all along the way. So, they can say whatever they want, but I just don't see it. And then when guys like Bourne are going for 140 yards with Mac Jones throwing to them, it just doesn't fill me with a great deal of confidence knowing that you're going to go into the playoffs and have to play, Tampa with Mike Evans, or you're going to have to play the Eagles again with A.J. Brown, or the Lions with Amon-Ra St. Brown. They just don't have somebody that's going to match up with those sort of guys. And I really do think they need to go get somebody, because just one of those guys, an ability to cover one of those guys, I think changes a whole bunch. It makes that pass rush that much more effective. But right now, when you can't cover anybody, I don't care how good Verse and Young and Fisk and all those guys are, they're not getting home if everybody's wide open.
Yeah, it's kind of like that meme that you've seen. I mean, I accidentally became important at work and it's ruining my life. I think that kind of applies for the Emmanuel Forbes of the world, even Darius Williams. And the truth is with those two guys, is they don't bring that physicality that Ahkello Witherspoon has when he can match up with bigger, stronger receivers. And Ahkello was just so good at knowing when to blitz, knowing to get up on a receiver, knowing the route patterns that they have. He's just really so instinctive from that standpoint. And the truth is with Darius Williams, if you just kind of look at where he is now to where he was a few years ago with the Rams, the dude just is not as quick-footed. Like, he just kind of has lost a step. And Emmanuel Forbes, he kind of gets abused on the missed tackles. So it's like, yes, they thought both of these guys would be legitimate starters, but their weaknesses and their deficiencies that we thought they might have, they've also kind of proven that they haven't overcome. So I think that's the thing too, is you thought they were starters, but the truth is that both of those guys have not lived up to their best possible scenario with this team. So that's why I think you're 100% right that you've gone through this evaluation stage with these guys. They haven't met those expectations, and then I think it's time to consider your options.
It is, and look, hindsight being 2020 and all that stuff, but who checks a lot of these boxes that we're talking about that we thought was going to happen, and they obviously decided the price was a little too high and they moved on, is Jalen Ramsey. Jalen Ramsey fixes a lot of the issues that we're talking about right now. They decided to go, I don't want to say go in a different direction. They decided to go in no direction. They just decided not to address it at all. I think it's showing. I think that they're deficient in that particular group. I think, through the first 5 weeks of the season, the offense has been very good. Matthew Stafford leads the league in yardage. Puka Nacua leads the league in receiving yardage. I think Devontae Adams is 13th. Kyron Williams is 6th in the league in rushing yardage. Like, the offense works. You look at them getting home with the pass rush. It's been really good. The two things they don't have is secondary, effectiveness and special teams effectiveness. Those are the two things that need to be addressed. And the trade deadline isn't super far away, so I think they'll do something. Maybe they're playing a little bit of poker here, trying to get the price down or whatever. But Les Snead, Sean McVay are way too good at what they do to look at this and say, yeah, we're good enough there, because they're not.
I agree. And it does almost feel like, hey, should we go get bullpen help, right? I mean, something like that, where it's not a starting pitcher, it's not a slug in the middle of your lineup, but is someone that could ultimately determine the outcome of a season, right? Whether it's win a postseason game, whether it's make it to the NFC Championship game. And kind of the number one question I always ask myself when it comes to the Rams defense is, how much is it scheme? How much is it player? Because there were times when Emmanuel Forbes was in the right position to make the play. He just didn't make the play. He didn't make the tackle. But then I asked myself, if it's that scheme, but it's Akella Witherspoon, does a play get made? Just because at some point, even with a scheme, a football player's instincts just take over. Because one of the frustrating things for me is with the Raheem Morris or Chris Shula, whatever it may be, it does feel like there's certain times where they could make Deion Sanders look like just another guy, right? And not put him in positions to go out there and be aggressive and make plays. That's kind of the frustrating thing for me sometimes. But if it works, it works.
Yeah, look, the result is what we're after. And if you can get to the result through 100 different ways, great. But I think the result is going to be a lot easier to find if you've got some different personnel back there. And again, you're not going to go find, 3 new guys, but one new guy might be able to make a difference. And I hear what they said. And like I said at the beginning of this, I think that they're typically kind of oddly truthful when it comes to their desire to go out there and do it. But this may be one of those instances where they're, hey, look over here while we do something over there.
Just make a trade because it's exciting. Okay,
always,
that's where I'm at.
Always
just make a trade because it's exciting.
Yeah, for sure.
But coming up next, how bad are the Ravens? And will it be an easier win for the Rams? That's coming. Nothing comes easy for the Rams. So that's coming up next. I'm Locked On Rams.
The NFL season is here, right? And FanDuel has an offer that you, first-time FanDuel user, is not going to want to miss, because right now, new customers, all you have to do is bet $5 and you will get $300 in bonus bets if you win that first bet. That's right. You heard me right. Pick a bet, any bet on FanDuel, put down $5, and if that $5 bet hits, you unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app, however you would like to do it, right? There are so many different ways to play on FanDuel. If you like parlays, play parlays on FanDuel. If you like player props, you got player props on FanDuel. And if you like to jump into the game in the middle with some live lines, FanDuel's got you covered there. So whether you are a casual fan who loves diving into the stats, or you are somebody that is diehard in the weeds, FanDuel makes game day experiences that much better. That little something extra riding on the action could take it to a whole new place. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started.
And we are off and running here on Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Want to give a big shout out to those everyday listeners out there watching and listening to every single episode of Locked On Rams. I'll be at Dodger Stadium tonight, Travis. And hey, I always get Dodgers fans that come up, but when I get the Locked On Rams fans, it just kind of means more to me. You know what I mean? It's like, it's like you're from my hometown or something.
That's
it's
right.
It's like the places that I hung out. But it's Ricky. We saw I think you met Ricky too. But we do get a good amount of Locked On Rams fans. I want to give a big shout out to all those every listeners out there. And contrary to what some people say in the comments here, there's a lot of Rams fans that are Dodgers fans too, right? I mean, I would say most of them are. So,
yeah, I think that Venn diagram is about like this. Yeah, there's a lot of crossover.
Yeah, you wouldn't think that with some of these comments, but the City of Champions. Let's leave it at that, okay? Mm-hmm. All right, Travis. So here in our second segment, I saw the look on your face when I said, "Could this be an easy win for the Rams?" Right, but in the look on your face described that, hey, you know what this team's about. Nothing ever comes easy, it feels like. And you could go into a situation where Lamar Jackson right now is currently listed as doubtful. Ian Rappaport said today that his status for the Rams Week 6 matchup with the Rams is very much in doubt. So it's probably going to be Cooper Rush under center on Sunday. And you look at how he fared against the Texans, went 14 of 20, 179 yards with 3 interceptions. So that means for sure he's going to look like John Elway against the Rams. But, I mean, let's just start right there. Like, do you expect Lamar Jackson to play? It feels like to me with their bye, maybe get a full 3 weeks off. I think they're leaning towards him not playing. I don't fully expect him to be in there for the Ravens. But then it's like their season could be shot if they lose this game 1-5.
Yeah, I think that's the part that makes it a little bit more, difficult to predict, because if the Ravens were where they typically are, if they were where we expected them to be, if they were 4-1 or 3-2, then I think that Lamar Jackson not playing in this game is probably more likely than not because of what you just said, which is their bye's coming up. He's their most important guy. Without him, they're kind of cooked. So let's get him healthy for the second part of the season and go from there. They're not. They're 1-4. If you fall to 1-5, that's kind of a death sentence in the NFL. That's just not something that teams recover from very often. So you may have to shoot your best shot right now, and that obviously would include Lamar Jackson. So I think that's how I kind of look at this. So I don't know what they would do. I would not be surprised to see Lamar out there. Now, even if he's not, even if it's Cooper Rush, how'd Mac Jones look last week? Right? I mean, as the backup quarterback, and he absolutely torched the Rams. Here's the one thing that I have learned. I've been doing the Rams pre-app and post for 10 years. I have been working with a variety of NFL players in my 30 years of working in this business, whether it's Marcellus Wiley or Keyshawn Johnson, Kirk Morrison, Eric Davis, right on down the line to DeMarco Farr, who I've been doing this with right now for the last couple of years. Here's the one thing I know for sure. None of these games are easy. Literally none of them. They're all hard. I don't care if you're playing backups. I don't care if that team hasn't won a game all season long. They're NFL players. They get checks, and they're never, ever easy. And the Rams have made a career. And again, the Rams are really good. They go to the playoffs almost every year. They got to this is not a criticism of the Rams. This is a statement of fact of the NFL. Even the really good teams have trouble beating the teams that are shorthanded. It's the league is this close. It's a play or two every quarter. It's 3 or 4 plays every game. And that's the difference between winning or losing. And if you don't make those 3 or 4 plays, you will lose. I don't care if they're 1-4. I don't care if it's Cooper Rush. You get a kick block, you fumble at the wrong time, you will lose the game. So yeah, there are no easy ones. This one, you look at it, 1-4 with a backup quarterback. Yeah, great. But we just saw what a backup quarterback looked like.
And hopefully that serves as a good learning lesson. Hopefully that will help them win this game if it is Cooper Rush, knowing what Mac Jones did against him. If they beat the 49ers like they should have, and Mac Jones threw for like 220 yards, wasn't a big factor, maybe you take Cooper Rush a little lightly, and this desperate Ravens team can knock off this Rams team. But I'm with you. I mean, anyone who's trying to say that an NFL team has no chance is just, they don't know what they're talking about. I mean, it's the NFL. I mean, it's the biggest cliche in the sport any given Sunday. Having said that, though, I mean, this team relies on Lamar Jackson just about as much as any team relies on one single player in this sport, right? I mean, he's up there with how much the Chiefs rely on Patrick Mahomes, but even more so this season with the way that this Ravens defense has played, where the Bills and Josh Allen, guys like that. And you look at how this Ravens team has fared with Lamar Jackson as a starter, and when he hasn't been under center with Lamar Jackson, 65-26, averaging 29.1 points per game, 389 yards per game. Without Lamar Jackson, 4-10, and those 29.1 points per game dropped to 16.1 points per game. So it's an incredible drop off. We know, too, this is the time of the year where you're going to see these stats everywhere on the scrollers. The Ravens are 1-4 for the first time since 2015. Only 4 teams in NFL history have made the playoffs after 1-5 start. The 2020 Washington Commanders, right? You don't want to be a part of that stat. And I think there's a Ravens team that they were a pretty trendy pick to win the Super Bowl this year. And this really is a do or die game for this team. And I think that's when teams are there at their most dangerous. When you're at home, you're do or die. And can I just say something? I hate this matchup for the Rams this week because of those reasons.
I do too. Look, again, here's another one of these cliches, but the reason these are cliches is because they're frequently true. Oh, hold on. So many of these NFL games come down to who needs it more, right? Like to your point, if this is we lose and our season is, then that you're going to get everything they have. You're going to get trick plays. You're going to get injured players that are having to play. All of these things. The Rams, quite frankly, don't have to have this. This is not a have to have it game. For the Ravens, it probably is. And a lot of times when it comes down to a gotta have it versus a team that doesn't have to have it, the gotta have it guys have a little bit of an advantage. All those Rams are getting ready to go to Europe. They're going to London the week after. They're going to spend the week in Baltimore. It's an unusual, week for them. Now, the good news is we've seen it with Sean McVay for 100 years now. He's really good at this. He's really good at getting guys focused. He's really good at those weird road trips. He's really good at getting ready to go over to London and all that other stuff. He's done a really good job with that. But the Ravens are the proverbial, wounded animal, and they have to have it, and the Rams don't, and that's always scary.
And I do think that they understand what they're getting into. The reason why I like the Rams ultimately find a way to pull this one out is because if the offensive side of the Ravens was just without Lamar Jackson and that was the biggest reason why they were losing games, then I'd be like, okay, I'm a little, I definitely have some concern here. But their defense is atrocious. Their defense is awful. I mean, run defense, they're 31 out of 32. Overall defense, 29th in overall defensive rankings across every single metric. And when you look at a lack of a pass rush, they're terrible at stopping the run. You're missing your best player, Nnamdi Mabuke. I mean, they're missing their top dudes out there, and they got a new defensive coordinator that really hasn't figured things out for them. And last week, you don't talk about it enough because they didn't win the game, but that was Matthew Stafford's best game in a long time. I mean, big time throws, no turnover-worthy plays. He's got protection. I thought there was a lot of bright spots with the offensive line. And I think that he's just a hot quarterback right now. And I think he's going to feast. And we know he's not afraid to go on the road and execute and have big moments.
I don't think they're going to have trouble offensively for all the reasons that you just listed. I think it's going to come from the other side if there's trouble. We'll go back a week ago when you started saying, last week, I thought what you were going to say was there was no Brock Purdy. There was no Jawan Jennings. There was no Ricky Pearsall. There was no George Kittle. There was no Nick Bosa. Like, they were missing everybody. Yes, so what? The Niners still showed up and showed out and looked like the better team for a good chunk of that game. So, if the Rams score a bunch of points, that's a good way to deal with your defense. But the Rams scored a bunch of points against the Niners, and they still found a way to lose that game. So I'm cautiously optimistic, but that kicking game scares the you-know-what out of me, and that defense's inability to get a stop when they need one right now is troublesome.
Yeah, and I would say, too, the number one thing, stopping that short passing game, because that's how they really, really attack this Rams defense. I mean, they've had a lot of success against elite backs, and Derrick Henry, he's a load for sure, but he's had his issues. But, yeah, here's a wild thing, too. We'll leave it this, and we're going to talk some OBJ. The 2000 Ravens, that defense gave 165 points in 16 games. The 2025 Ravens, 177 points in 5 games. So drop a 30 piece on this Ravens team, please, because let's be honest here. If you lose this game, you're in danger mode with the way the Jaguars look. You're in danger mode.
And the schedule in the back half of the season is where the meat of the opponents are. It's mostly all of your division opponents. The Rams will only play one division opponent before they go on their bye here in a couple of weeks. They come out of the bye. They play the Saints, which, that back at SoFi. So that's a pretty favorable matchup. But after that, you've got 5 division games left. You've got games with Detroit. You've got games with Tampa. You've got a road game on a Monday night in Atlanta along the way. Like there's a lot of games in there that do not look like layups along the way. So you better take care of the ones that you should take care of. That includes Baltimore. That includes, I agree with you. Jacksonville's not bad. That idea that Jacksonville is like, oh, it's the Jags, they stink. They don't. They might not be great, but they definitely don't stink. So that's a game you're going to have to be ready to go to play in. These next 2 games are really big. You don't want to go into that bye at 3-4 and have to pull a rabbit out of your hat in the back half of the season for the 3rd year in a row. At worst, you need a split, and at best, you need to win both of these.
Absolutely not. Now I have to ask you this: are you a must-win guy? Like, are you
No.
It's only a must-win if it's the elimination game, right?
Yes. You know who has a must-win game?
The Phillies. The Phillies are I'm not a must-win guy, but I definitely am it would behoove them to win this weekend guy. How about that?
You're a behoove guy, huh? Okay.
Well, just for the winning thing. The must-win thing turns me off. You know, I'm with you. Like, it's elimination or bust. We can get eliminated for the postseason. It's game 7, game 5, whatever. Like, it's not a must-win, because the truth is, if you don't win this game, but you still have all the options in front of you as far as the postseason, you can still lose. So, yeah, it would behoove them to win.
It's a behoover. It's a big behoover in Baltimore. I like to call him a Baltimore behoover.
You got the headline written already, man. All right, coming up next, we'll talk about old friend OBJ. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
I'm Cody Rourke from Locked On Broncos, and this episode is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. This is Peloton's most advanced equipment yet, giving you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or you're cross-training with your favorite instructors like Alex Toussaint. It's training reimagined to make your workout more personal. Peloton is built for breakthroughs. With features that help you plan, stay motivated, and hit peak performance, you can let yourself run, lift, flex, and go, while Peloton handles all the rest. Plus, Peloton IQ provides real-time strength coaching, tracking your progress and suggesting weights that challenge you so you can get stronger. Plus, the new movement tracking camera, it counts your reps and corrects your form in real time, making sure every rep is safer and smarter. So let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
And welcome back to Locked On Broncos. Thanks for rocking with us. That was the Locked On Broncos guy, apparently. But a big shout out to that Peloton ad. Those are really popular during COVID. I remember never got one. But yeah, you get your Peloton on. That's good stuff.
I've been on it. We bought one. I've been on it a few times. My wife rides it every day. She really does. She loves it.
Hey, man. Hey, they got the workouts. I got to go far away from where I live, and then I have to get back. You know what I mean? That's the only way I can do it. I got to go far. And yes, sometimes I'll take an Uber back. You know what I'm saying? But I got to go away. Because if I'm on a treadmill, I can stop now. Cool. I just got tired. I can quit. Right? Let's go.
Let me ask you this. Is it normal, because not that I've ever done this or do this weekly or daily or any of that, is it normal that on my way home from my exercise that I stop and buy food and carry it the rest of the way home? Is that normal? Because that may be is it what kind of food are we talking though? Grocery store sushi, Albertsons sushi. I have a route. I walk. I go in there. I'm disgusting and sweaty. I get a couple of rolls of my sushi, and I walk the rest of the way home.
Man, I respect it. I actually Uber Eats some Pavilion sushi yesterday. I wasn't mad at it, to be honest. I wasn't mad at it. But no, it's not abnormal. I think it's good. It gives you purpose. And it makes you justify the walk too.
Exactly.
But here, real quick, we got to talk about old friend OBJ. This kind of snuck up on people yesterday. Odell Beckham Jr. has been suspended for 6 games by the NFL for violating the PED policy. He announced the news on the Pivot podcast, so it was interesting. You had Tom Pelissero talk a little bit about it. So he's a free agent. He played for the Dolphins in 2024, 9 games. Was a free agent. So with the Rams, of course, in 2021, they signed him in free agency that year, and he helped get them a Super Bowl. Of course, he famously got injured in Super Bowl 56, tore his ACL. But with the Rams, he definitely made a little bit of an impact. He definitely certainly did. But he's ineligible to play this year until week 12. Hasn't played since week 14 of last year. Any chance the Rams consider OBJ?
I would defer to Sean McVay on this. If he thinks there's a way to use him, I would be intrigued by it. I don't see it. When you talk about Odell Beckham Jr., Doug, the last time he was good was in that Super Bowl. Since then, he really has not been an effective NFL player. The Super Bowl was a while ago. That wasn't a season or even 2 seasons ago. That is well in the rearview mirror. Wide receivers are they don't age particularly well for the most part. So I'm not interested in it. However, and here's the however, if the Rams brought him in, that means that Sean McVay likes it. And if Sean McVay likes it, I love it. You know, if he thinks there's a way to unlock a player like that, then great, go do it. But, you know, seeing Odell in Baltimore, seeing him in Miami, he's just not that guy we saw with the Rams. As brief as it was, he was pretty darn good with the Rams, but I feel like that player doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, the Rams, 8 games, 305 yards on 27 catches, had 5 touchdowns. Think about OBJ. I mean, those first 3 years with the Giants, I mean, he looked like he was going to be a Hall of Famer. Like he was on a Hall of Fame trajectory. The catch against the Cowboys. Ever since then, he really has never been that guy consistently. Had some whatever years with the Browns, got the injuries. I hate to say this, I actually really love the dude. Like his swag level is off the charts and stuff. But he might be one of the most overrated players from a career standpoint in the history of the game. Like if we're completely like you have guys like you have young players that have Odell's like they're on their Mount Rushmore receivers, you know, things like that.
If anybody says that, you can very quietly turn around and walk away and stop listening because that's ridiculous. But look, this is why being in New York or being in Los Angeles matters a great deal. You said it, Doug. Odell Beckham made one of the greatest catches you're ever going to see in your life on the New York Giants against the Dallas Cowboys on Monday Night Football. That's it. You know, like that is this thing. Okay, he's a great player. No, he's not. He's a good player. Barely. You know, but when you're on a New York team on prime time and you do something, everybody's going to see it. And they did. But yeah, I'm with you. Anybody that thinks Odell Beckham Jr. is one of the great wide receivers in the history of the league is not paying attention.
Yeah, I think he became like a cultural icon, right? Like a pop culture icon. He got really like, I mean, he was kind of that guy. So I love OBJ. I love the energy. I love what he brought. But yeah, I mean, the name doesn't kind of match the kind of legacy, I think, for a lot of people. You said you'd walk away from people's Mount Rushmore if they had OBJ. You would certainly walk away from mine because I have J.J. Stokes and Freddie Mitchell on mine. So you'd probably laugh at mine and just...
Flipper Anderson isn't on there?
Yeah, I guess we'll throw that on there too. Yeah, yeah, that and Tutu Atwell's my fourth to round that out. But
sure.
That's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Rams. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. And you can follow the People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers, rocking the Locked On t-shirt. Wow, good stuff. That's clean right there. Yep. You can follow him on X and Instagram at Travis Rogers and go watch his show, DeMarco and Travis in the afternoon on ESPN LA. Until next time, whose house? It's Locked On Rams house.